In the name of Allah, in the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Last class we had started discussing another sign of the hour, which is mentioned in the Hadith, one of the major signs. It is the sign of the Dajjal, al-Masih al-Dajjal, which translates to the false Messiah or the deceiving Messiah. That is in contrast to the real Messiah who will also come again. The second coming of the Messiah is also part of the belief of the Muslims. And opposing to him would be this deceiving Messiah, al-Masih al-Dajjal. And that's why he's called Masih. He's called Masih. Scholars say he's called al-Masih because one of the descriptions that is given to us by the Prophet, peace be upon him, is that he has one eye that is completely obliterated. Mamsuha means obliterated. So this is the origin of the name al-Masih. Another possible origin of this name is that he is known during his time of presence on this earth to travel very swiftly across the earth. Masah al-ard, that he goes very fast from town to town and country to country, spreading his deception and corruption. And this in Arabic, when somebody goes around the earth like this or travels so fast, they say Masah al-ard. That's why it's called al-Masih as well. Okay, some people have called him al-Masih with the kha, and that is not correct. If you hear it al-Masih, this is not a correct name. That's not mentioned in the sayings of the Prophet. If you remember the last class, we mentioned that al-Masih al-Dajjal, this name is not mentioned in the Quran, and that some people who reject the Sunnah, reject the sayings of the Prophet, one of their arguments is that certain concepts are not mentioned in the Quran. But I had mentioned to you in the last class that historically, using just the narrations, he is proven without any doubt, because the prophetic sayings that have been relayed to us from many Sahaba, many companions of the Prophet, through various chains of narration. Only in the level of the companions or the generation of the companions, there's about 44 or 46 companions who have told the second generation about him, and each one of them has told many people, maybe close to 10 or more, each one of them. So you can realize that hundreds of people during the life of the Sahaba and the second generation have been talking about him, and that we can only conclude that such concept is well established in the minds of the Muslims, and that they were taught this concept by the Prophet, peace be upon him. The fact that it is not mentioned in the Quran only tells us that there are concepts in our religion that are very important, that we cannot get except from the teachings of the Prophet. It actually reinforces the fact that we have to abide by the Sunnah and grasp onto the Sunnah very firmly, because many things in our religion we will not be able to know or perform without the teachings of the Prophet. And you can't say, oh, it is wrong, this concept is fabricated because it's not mentioned in the Quran, because we can tell them also very important concepts that we practice every day are not mentioned in the Quran, or not detailed in the Quran at least, such as the prayer. The prayer is not detailed in the sequence that we perform it in the Quran any place. Although a lesser important concept is sometimes detailed in the Quran, such as the wudu. Ablution is mentioned in detail in the Quran. You can see one verse talking about ablution in sequence from beginning to end. But bring me one verse or one chapter of the Quran that tells us the prayer. Is the prayer not important? Definitely, it's an essential part of the life and practice of the Muslim, right? And it is not mentioned. So this only tells us again that we cannot learn the religion in full or practice it correctly without the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be peace be upon him. Even the zakah. Zakah, you can, Allah just tells us to perform zakah or give zakah. But, and He also tells us in the Quran who deserve to receive the zakah. But the portions, percentages, and when to give it, and the zakah of the money, different from the zakah of the charity of the given for cattle or for land and for gold and so on. All these details we cannot learn from the Quran. Again, we have to refer to the Sunnah. And that is why repeatedly in the Quran, Allah commands us either to follow the Prophet or to obey the Prophet repeatedly. And also sometimes in some verses, like the verse such as وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ وَأَطِيعُوا الرَّسُولَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. Here he says, perfect and establish your prayer and give the charity, the zakah, and listen to the Prophet. Why? Because you cannot actually do the salah or the zakah without listening to the Prophet. So this is a very strong argument that Allah is telling us that for us to actually obey Him in performing the salah and zakah, we have to follow who? The Prophet, peace be upon him. And those people who reject the sunnah of the Prophet are very strange people, because every nation that has a prophet, they spend billions of dollars digging in the earth to find a single manuscript telling them what happened and what their prophet said, and even the people who lived close to the time of his prophet, how they lived and what they practiced. They try very hard to know anything about the origin of the religion, how it was practiced at the time of the prophet that came to them, whether Jesus or Moses. You find Christians and Jews digging for manuscripts and artifacts everywhere to find anything, and they can't find. While we Muslims have, we have everything we need about the details of the life of the Prophet and the companions, and we want to reject it. Subhanallah, the exact opposite. Shaitan is really doing his work here. So I will tell you a few things about Al-Masih, Ad-Dajjal, because there's many hadiths, and of course there's many fabricated hadith as well. We don't say that we accept any prophetic saying. We only accept the prophetic saying that meets the standards of accepting a historical report based on the very strict and stringent standards that our early Muslim predecessors have set down. And they have followed this method from the very beginning, and no nation has done that. So for us, this has been handed to us as Muslims on a silver platter, and still many Muslims want to reject it. While people who don't have anything about their prophet, they're trying very hard to find a single word about their prophets. I'll just mention quickly a few things. I don't want to go through in detail through these prophetic sayings, because some of them will actually come later in the book of Sahih Muslim, and then we can discuss them in detail. So just some quick features about Al-Masih, the false Messiah, is that يخرج من قبل المشرق في زمان اختلاف من الناس وفرقة. This means that he will come out or arise or show up from the east at a time where people, there's so much confusion going on, and difference and conflict happening between the people. Also, the Prophet, peace be upon him, mentioned that every prophet before him has warned his people from this person, Al-Masih al-Dajjal. He's a human being, but Allah has given him certain powers to test the people's faith. It is mentioned in some narrations that he will actually, when he begins his mission, he will be calling to religion. So he will appear as a caller to religion or a righteous person, and he will develop a following. Then he will claim to be a prophet, and after he gains a following after that, then he will claim to be God himself. And we have seen in history certain people who started like this and gone to this sequence of calling to Islam and then claiming to be prophets. Can somebody mention an example that happened in the recent past of somebody who appeared and then he was calling to Islam and then claimed to be a prophet? Well, Musaylama claimed prophethood from the beginning. He was not calling to Islam. He was opposing Islam. Qadianiyah, yes. Yani Qadiani. Yes, because that's what he did. Initially, he was debating with Christians, and he was like almost like a scholar and calling to Islam, and became famous. And then later on said, now I'm the Prophet. Subhanallah. So this is something to keep an eye for. I would like to mention some more facts about him. Another thing that was mentioned in a hadith is that when he comes, he will come at a time when there's so much poverty and drought and lack of food supply on earth, and that will be one of the reasons many people will follow him, because one of the things, he will have wealth with him, and he will be able to provide people with what they need of this life, even to survive. So it will be a very severe test, because people are so much in need for the things that he can provide for them, if they accept that he is their God. No. The fact that he has one eye, this is another thing that is mentioned in one eye that is obliterated, so he has one eye. Also the Prophet, to teach the people, he says, إِنَّهُ تَعَلَّمُوا أَنَّهُ لَنْ يَرَى أَحَدٌ مِّنْكُمْ رَبَّهُ حَتَّى يَمُوتْ. He says a simple fact is that you should know that none of you will see their Lord until after they die. So that's a very simple thing. The fact that this person will have such supernatural powers and can provide the people with so many things, and he will have miracles with him, not miracles, but supernatural acts that he can do. He cannot claim to be God, because we know that God is not, we cannot see God in this life until after we die. That's a very important point the Prophet ﷺ taught the people. And then another hadith, he says that the most intense and severe test for humanity till the day of judgment is this Masih ad-Dajjal. And he used to ask Allah for protection from this fitna, from this trial, actually every salah. We know after salah, Allahumma na'udhu bika min adhab al-qabr, wa fitnat al-Masih ad-Dajjal. So it's actually part of our salah that we say, and then they want to reject these kind of things. Now, also I'll conclude very quickly here. In another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said something when he found some of the companions discussing al-Masih. He says, and that's a very important teaching for us. He says, ألا أخبركم بما هو أخوف عليكم من المسيح الدجال. He said to the Sahaba, the companions, I would like to tell you about something that is even more scary and more dangerous to you than al-Masih. And then he says, الشرك الخفي. He says the hidden shirk, hidden polytheism, something that is very subtle that anyone can fall into. He says أن يقوم الرجل يعمل لمكان الرجل. He says for somebody to do an act of worship or do an act of goodness just to show off in front of another man. This is what is called in Arabic, it's called ar-riya, right? It's called ar-riya, showing off. And that is because this is something that we meet in every single day. Al-Masih al-Dajjal will come in a certain people, and that will be the biggest test for the people who witness. But Prophet ﷺ is worried in general about the Muslims falling into this kind of shirk, into this kind of polytheism and worshipping other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by doing their acts of worship, like perfecting their prayer or showing up for prayer just to appease other people and to keep their image. That is something that we are really warned about. And Prophet ﷺ says this is even more scary on your Imaan and your belief than al-Masih ad-Dajjal. Now, Prophet ﷺ said to the Sahaba, he says to them, if he comes out while I'm with you, I will be the one to confront him. But if he comes out at a later date, then everyone is responsible for himself. We'll stop here.